Okay, so this says that I'm live, but I don't know if anybody can hear me, so I'm just gonna check on YouTube to make sure that. There we go. We can hear me. Okay. I'm gonna close the window. Give me a second. No one's even here, so. Okay, now we're back. Christ. From sound problems to everything. We're having one of those days. We're having a day where there are just too many issues, okay? And I don't have the fucking patience to deal with any of them. So we're going to be talking today specifically about Facebook groups. They're toxic, negative places. Not all of them, okay? There are some that are actually worth following or participating in. And one that I can think of is like Lunar Wisdoms, but the rest of them are garbage. Okay, so we're gonna go through, and I've got my iPad down here. See, iPad, and we're gonna go through some of these posts. There's not many of these posts. There's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go through, and when we're done, then we're done forever. Okay. Now I know that somebody. Motherfucker, I need batteries. Y'all are gonna have to give me a second, because I forgot to put batteries in this damn thing. There's no one watching anyways. Oh, give me a second, tubies. There we go. Christ, this is just not a day to go live. Every time I want to go live, there's always issues. You can't hear me, you can't see me, I don't have batteries. Christ. Okay, let's get into the first one, everybody. Okay, there's 0 people here. So, can I use a spell breaker to break spells someone cast on someone else? This is what I'm talking about when I say that Facebook groups are fucking stupid, because if you're any kind of witch, you should know the answer to that, right? Spellbreaker jars are not just for you. You can use them on your family, you can use them on your loved one, you can use them on your friends, you can use them on your pets, you can use them on your car, you can use them on your job. You can use them even if you cast a spell. Let's say you cast a curse, and you're like, for some reason you feel guilty about casting that curse. So you're all like, oh, I've got to like undo the curse because it's evil and it's bad and I'm a Wicca Bicca. So then you can use a spellbreaker jar. There are reversal spells, there are spell breakers, there are spell amplifiers, there are this, there are that, there are everything. But in relation to the spellbreaker jar being used for somebody else, okay, let's say, Billy down the street's been cursed by Janie in the next city. I don't know why Janie is cursing Billy from one city to the other. Like, that's the other thing that I don't understand. Why are you witches throwing magic at other witches halfway across the world? Like, don't you have something better to do with your life? Don't you have a family to raise? Don't you have kids to raise? Don't you have a job to go to? Don't you have hobbies to participate in? Don't you have anything better to do with your life other than casting curses at witches halfway across the world? Like, who cares if someone on the internet pisses you off? Like, ooh, big deal, it's the goddamn internet. You're an adult, act like it. Oh, wait, I forgot. Half of you in Facebook groups aren't adults. You look like adults, but you type like children. Who uses the letter U when they mean to type out Y-O-U? Like, how hard is that? How hard is it to type like a normal person? I guess it must be really difficult because half of you don't know how. So that's rant number 1. Here's rant number 2. Thoughts on smoking lavender? What? I'm sorry. Are you retarded? Here, let me go smoke some OSHA root. Or let me go smoke some, I don't know, bay leaves. Let me go smoke some roses. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Someone's like, I enjoyed it when I did. Makes you sleep really good. Passion flower, I tried lavender CBD vape. It helps you sleep. It opens your airway. Do not smoke lavender. Okay? Don't even smoke mugwort. Okay? You don't know what is happening when you burn these particular herbs and you put them, the smoke of them, into your lungs. It's one thing if it's an incense and you're just like smelling the incense, right? Like that's not going to kill you. It might if you're allergic. But to smoke lavender, what? Are you people like literally retarded? Like, is there something wrong with you upstairs where you think it is appropriate to be smoking lavender? Who comes up with this shit? Christ. Do not smoke lavender. Okay? I mean, I can't literally tell you what to do. I mean, you're gonna do whatever the hell you're gonna do because you're a moron. But that's the same as like eating Tide Pods, right? Like, why don't you just go ingest some Tide Pods, right? Like, I don't understand this. I understand how people would smoke mugwort for the bronchitis has entered chat pretty fucking much. Among many other things. What if that lavender, right? We all store our lavender in our little jars, right? Or we store it somewhere. We have some way of storing our lavender, right? And over years, we may not see it, but what if there's a little bit of mold, or there's a mold spore, or there's something wrong with the lavender that you can't physically see? Okay, but it's there. Like, this is why I don't drink raw herbal tea. Like, I like to buy the tea bag. Sometimes I will make my own teas, but I know where I'm getting my herbs from. And if you don't know where you're getting your herbs from, if you're growing lavender outside and you're picking it and drying it and smoking it, what if there's bugs on it? What if there's bug crap on it? What if there's mold on it? What if there's toxins in the plant because of the soil or what? Like, you people should not be smoking the herbs that you buy. I do understand why some people smoke mugwort because it goes all the way back, but still, like, what is the purpose of this? Are you trying to get high? Like, smoke weed or go and smoke crack for all I care. Oh my god. I got mugwort today. Should I smoke it with my granary, make tea? How long are the effects? Smoking with herbs like marijuana helps me astral project and get more of a head high. My walls are more movable and I can let them down easier. You people are literally just using drugs as an excuse, right? Like, what, you can't astral project without smoking mugwort? You can't astral project without smoking weed? You can't astral project without smoking lavender? Like, do you even know how to be a witch? Like, oh my god. Do not smoke mugwort. Do not smoke lavender. Do not smoke sage. Do not smoke dandelions. Do not smoke dog shit. Christ, you people, like, I don't understand this. Like, who decides? Like, how do you decide? This is the question. How do you decide that you're going to smoke mugwort? It's one thing for weed, because in most states and in all provinces in Canada and territories, it's legal. You buy it from a legally sourced store where they legally and ethically grow it, and there's no, from what I understand, there's no pesticides, there's no toxins that they're adding to the soil or to the plant. It's just THC. See, that makes sense. And you might be thinking, well, what if I grow the lavender in the same way? Don't smoke lavender, okay? Don't. It's stupid. And then they're like, oh, what if I grow mugwort the same way? I mean, smoking mugwort is a little bit different than smoking lavender because there are shamans and there are magical practitioners in the past who would smoke these things. for the hallucinogenic properties because they thought that it would make them more attuned with the spirits. Trust me, marijuana does not make you more attuned with the spirits. And mugwort, burning it on a coal is one thing, but inhaling it into your lungs, like what kind of damage are you doing to your body when you smoke these types of things, right? We don't know what marijuana is doing to our lungs. We don't know if it's going to affect us in 25, 30 years, right? It may not do anything to you, but it may affect somebody else in 25 to 30 years. We don't have the science. There's no science behind what happens when you smoke mugwort. There's no science behind what happens when you smoke lavender. I don't think some scientist goes out, picks some lavender, dries it, and is like, I'm going to smoke this today. You know why? Because they're not stupid. Now, with the other question that he had on there, make tea or how long does the effects last? Tea of mugwort, you need to do your medical research. Like you people in Facebook groups are not doing their medical research. Okay, I can damn well tell you they're not doing their medical research. And that's more than just Googling. Okay, you don't just Google mugwort and be like, okay, I can drink it or I can touch it. No, you need to do the proper stuff, right? Like if you've never had mugwort anywhere in your house, you've never grown it, you've never touched it, you've never looked at it, you've never anything, it's never been around you. You don't know if you're allergic to it. So you go out and you buy it and you smoke it, and guess what? You could die, you could get very sick. Right? Like, oh my God. And then drinking too much mugwort tea can actually be very poisonous to you. I mean, people, sakes. Stop smoking mugwort and lavender. Okay, you know what? Don't smoke any of the herbs that you buy from Mountain Rose Herbs, or what's the other one? There's another one. There's another herb store. Monterey Bay Spice Company, right? Like, don't smoke the herbs. Like, what's next? Somebody's gonna get like frankincense resin and be like, hey, I got frankincense resin. Can I smoke it in my crack pipe? What are some DIY fire extinguisher type stuff that you keep at your altar when things get crazy? Nothing. Because it's called fire safety. It's called not overdressing your candles. It's called not walking away from the situation. And it's called not having roaring cauldron fires. Like, this goes all the way back. This is beyond witchcraft. This is like fire safety. I literally replied to this stupid person and was like, nothing, because I don't overdress my candles like half of you people do. A little oil, a tiny sprinkling of herbs, that's all you need. If it's a tiny candle, like say this big, you've seen me overdress these candles this big, right? And I don't leave the altar. I may get up and turn off the camera, but I'm not gonna leave the altar until that thing is done, and I'm going to stay right there. And I usually have the candles on a plate or in a cauldron, and I have a lid by so that I can just close it. I mean, how hard is it to practice basic fire safety? This person decides to go and say, well, then your response wasn't needed, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you need to practice fire safety. If you're going to practice candle magic, cauldron fires, working, you know how we dress our candles in oil? We like to dress them in oil. We like to bless that oil. We put our intentions into that oil. Oil is flammable. Did you know that? I bet you didn't, because you're fucking stupid. That's what you are. Yeah. Fuck. Oil is flammable. Wax mixing with oil, with the wick burning down in a bowl of oil. I have seen some of these people fill up a bowl full of oil, put a candle in it, and burn it down. And they're like, ooh, this isn't working for whatever, or this is a money spell, or this is that is literally asking for you to burn your house down. Because if that oil catches on fire and 99% of you have no idea how to put out an oil fire, you're fucked, right? You think, oh, I'm going to splash some water on it. All you're going to do is knock the oil around and the flames are going to be everywhere. No, you need salt and to cover it, okay? In fact, you don't need that much oil on your candle. A tiny amount of oil rubbed across the candle will be enough, but we all like to just pour the oil on and coat it in the herbs and roll it around. I have never ever had an issue where my workings were getting out of control, that I needed a fire extinguisher or some kind of thing by my altar in order to extinguish the flames. Like, I don't understand why some people in these Facebook groups just don't get the basics, okay? And the basics are simple. Don't burn your house down. Don't walk away from a lit candle. Don't go run errands because you've got this giant jar candle, the 7-day candle burning, and you're like, I'm going to go and run some errands. This thing's going to burn all day. Like, no, you don't leave your house, okay, unless you blow it out. You either extinguish the flame or you don't leave your house. In the past, I have talked about, and I have seen talked about, witches who will say, oh, I put it into the sink, or I put it into a bowl with some water, or I put it here, or no. You don't leave the candle. You don't go to sleep with the 7-day candle burning, okay? You don't do anything. You either extinguish the flame and then go about your business, or you sit there and you watch it, or you be in the same room as it, within at least, I'd say, 5 feet of it, so that you can quickly deal with any situation. What you have to realize is these 7-day candles are made like shit, okay? They may burn a little better than your dollar store glass pillar candle things because the wax isn't crap, okay? And the wick isn't crap and it wasn't made hastily. However, these 7-day candles have issues where the wick isn't always straight, okay? So as it burns down, the wick could get closer to the glass, or it could get closer to the glass. What happens when flame touches glass for an extended period of time? It cracks and it breaks, okay? And when it breaks, wax starts to leak out. What happens if that wax catches on fire? Your house burns down. So what happens if you're sleeping and the wick gets too close to the glass because you weren't paying attention to it, or you weren't paying attention to it because you were sleeping? Well, it gets close to the glass, it breaks, it cracks, the wax starts to spill because the wax is still hot and very, very flammable. It could catch on fire, and then there goes your house, and possibly you, and your pets, and your children, and your family. All because you weren't paying attention to a candle. All because you decided it was appropriate to go to bed with a 7-day candle lit. What is it that Philip DeFranco here on YouTube likes to say? I can't remember. Somebody tell me. Oh, wait, I remember. Don't be stupid, stupid. Christ. No witch is perfect. This one I actually kind of agree with. So go ahead and draw that lopsided pentagram. Stutter while you're chanting your spell. Pick up herbs that you dropped and use them anyway. If you live your life trying to make everything perfectly aesthetically pleasing, you stress yourself out big time. So take it easy. Your craft is always going to be there. And this is true. This is the one most positive post that I have managed to find in all of this fuckery. Because that's what it is. It's fuckery. There are people in a lot of these Facebook groups Be it hoodoo, be it voodoo, be it black magic, be it ceremonial magic, be it Wicca Bicca, be it hippy dippy, be it whatever. And yes, Cindy S., you did catch me live. Oh my God, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Wait, what the hell were we talking about? Oh yeah, Facebook groups and how they're stupid. A lot of these people have no idea what they're doing. And a lot of these Facebook groups are the blind leading the blind. It's funny because most of the time I watch from an outside perspective. That one comment I read to you that I had wrote was like the first time in 2-3 years that I've ever posted in one of these Facebook groups. I have posted in Lunar Wisdom's Facebook group because her Facebook group isn't stupid and it's not full of stupid people. So you might be asking, well, then why are you joining these Facebook groups if 90% of them are stupid and they're just blind leading the blind? Because it's great content for my channel, right? Sometimes, very rarely, people will ask actual questions worth discussing and worth having a conversation over. But that's like 1 out of 1,000. Okay, now when it comes to your craft, and I talk about this in a future video that's coming at some point, your craft doesn't need to look like Instagram, right? Like your altar doesn't need to look like Instagram. Your magic doesn't have to reflect what you see on Instagram, right? Like social media in general is toxic and poisonous for this reason. It makes us compare our craft. It makes us compare our lives. It makes us depressed and miserable because we see some other witch, okay? Let's call her Tammy. We see some Tammy witch who posts on Instagram this beautiful, gorgeous altar. And then we look at our altar and we realize that it's not as gorgeous and beautiful, and we feel sad. You might not actually feel sad. You might not feel tears raining down your face. You may not. But the more you look at those types of posts, the more depressed you get, the more miserable you get, right? Like that's the same as like Instagram, how it's ruined young girls' perception of their body, right? And of their life, of their relationships, of everything about them, because they see these other skinnier, more beautiful, more attractive women with these beautiful AJ Kappas of the world, right? With the abs and the gorgeousness and all that fun stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that picture, but Instagram with its filters and its viral sharing and everything's out there, it makes people feel less than. And I've seen this predominantly in the witchcraft community, where lots of people will complain that their altar or their craft or the way they cast spells or the way they dress candles or the way they do anything is not the same as, say, Tammy on Instagram. And they feel like they're not a witch, and they question themselves, and they question if they are a witch. Like, does your craft have to look this aesthetically pleasing? Does my craft doesn't look that aesthetically pleasing? Like, am I a witch? Am I doing this right if my stuff doesn't look like Tammy's on Instagram? And the answer is no. I mean, yes, you are a witch, but no to all of your doubts. No to all of your self-doubt, okay? Delete that shit. Okay, like get off those Instagram posts, get off of those Facebook posts, get off of social media and spend an hour at your altar with your spirits. You don't have to cast spells. You don't have to do anything. Just spend time accepting that this is what your craft is, right? You make your own craft. We all talk about making our craft based off of what we have in the house, right? Like I don't have the money these days to go out and buy the expensive herbs and the expensive candles and the expensive incense and all of that stuff. So I use what I have. You might do the exact same thing. You might not have the money to go and buy all the fancy dancy stuff. So it's okay if your craft is messy, if it's not Instagram worthy, if it's not, aesthetically pleasing. My craft is not aesthetically pleasing. And that's why when you see my YouTube videos, I like to apply effects and filters and make it look pretty and gorgeous, because I like when my videos are aesthetically pleasing. Okay, that's what I can afford to do. I can afford that. I can't afford to make my altar look like Tammy's on Instagram. There may be a Tammy on Instagram who's a witch and is posting her altar and whatnot, but Tammy is not like Cindy Lou Who, okay? There is nobody in this particular case. So it's disheartening to see other witches feel like their craft is less than. It really is, because you can't really do the craft wrong. We all have our own opinions, we have our own ideas, we have our own ways of working with entities and working with spirits and working with whatever else. So if you're sitting there and you're feeling like, I can't afford all the herbs that this witch on YouTube that I watch is using, or I can't afford to have my altar like that, or I can't afford to do this, or I can't afford, don't worry about it. Because you're fine. You're doing the best with what you have. You're working the magics with what you have. And I have always said, and I still say this, you can sit in your living room cross-legged, butt naked, and manifest the whole world. You could curse the whole world. You don't need tools. You don't need an altar. You don't need anything to do witchcraft. And the problem is with social media perpetuating the idea that you do need tools, that you do need herbs, that you do need candles, that you do need this, that you do, and you know that you don't. And it's sad to see a lot of people think that you do. Okay? And it's because of social media. It really is. So this other one that I want to preach and rant about is about tarot. I saw this post and I was like, what is this? So I wanted to share it with you. Thoughts on tarot. I was already hesitant about it, but I loathe anything with Abrahamic symbology. But after diving deep into it, there's something deeply off about it. I don't think you know anything about tarot, for starters. The Abrahamic symbology is in the Rider-Waite deck. If you don't like that, then switch to a different deck. But the Rider-Waite deck is the best, the easiest way to learn as a new tarot reader, okay? When Lunar Wisdom taught me how to read tarot cards, she made a point for me to make sure that I had the Rider-Waite deck, and I was able to find it, and I was able to use it, okay? And yes, there is Abrahamic symbology in there, okay? There are symbols of Mother Mary. There are symbols of just everything that you can think of when it comes to Abrahamic. Like the biggest one I can think of is Mother Mary, especially around the Empress, the priest, the High Priestess, the Queen of Cups, basically any of the queens. Any of the female-based cards have some association with Mother Mary in some way, shape, or form, okay? I mean, if you really want to go that far down into it. I, for one, got led on a wild goose chase, pulling my leash this way and that haphazardly while it kept me intrigued with surprisingly specific and consistent insights. I could say maybe it got me to where I need to be, but the methods are very deceptive. I don't think you know how to do divination. I don't think you know what divination is. Divination is not going to tell you, you need to do this step, and this step, and you need to go in this direction. It's going to tell you, this is where you are, this is where you were, this is where you will be. And there are obviously different types of card layouts that you can do to get specific information, but it's not going to be like, how do I put this? It's not going to be cut and dry. Okay. When you do divination, it's not cut and dry. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you're doing a tarot reading because you lost your job and you need to know if you're going to get a new one right away. So the tarot cards might start out by telling you that you lost your job, and then they might tell you something that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But then it tells you that if you don't do this, or you don't change this, or you don't whatever it is, that you may end up in a different situation. Or it may tell you that you lost your job, this is why, and eventually you'll get a new one, but. Okay, when you read tarot cards, when you read bones, when you read water, when you read fire, when you read smoke, when you read candles, it's up to our interpretation based off of the information that we have, as well as communicating with our spirits or our entities. When I read the tarot cards with the Morrigan, it can be very confusing. It can be very, like, she'll tell you something and it might not make sense. And then the thing that she warned you about would play out and you'll be like, oh, that's what you were telling me. Oh, okay. Now I see. And a good example of that is with my previous job. I was reading the tarot cards near the end of that job, and the swords kept coming up, and the Morrigan kept telling me that something isn't right here. Something is very, very wrong. I wasn't listening, as a lot of us don't. Okay? I wasn't fully paying attention to what it was that she was trying to communicate through the tarot cards. For any of you who know me, when I work with the Morrigan, when I want to communicate with her, I communicate via the tarot cards. Because if she tries to speak to me, it's garbled. It's garbled. It doesn't make any sense. There are some times where she will get through, as in, I need you to do this, or I need you to do that. But when it comes to guiding me, or when it comes to helping me see a situation, it's not cut and dry, because there are so many variables and so many ways that something could play out. Okay, there is no form of divination that's going to tell you that you need to walk through this specific door, talk to these specific people, fill out this specific form, and go to this specific place at this specific time to attain the thing that you want. No form of divination is going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that, but in a way where you have to figure it out. Okay? Everything has to be interpreted the way that we would interpret it and figure it out ourselves. At least that's how it has been for me. I can't imagine somebody sitting there and being like, well, I read the Celtic Cross yesterday and it told me that I lost my job because I'm a bad person. And then it told me that I should go and apply for more jobs. And it told me that if I don't apply for more jobs, that I'm going to be homeless. Oh, and it told me I need to grow. Like, you're only going to get that kind of information by reflecting and taking the time to reflect upon what you've read. Okay. And a lot of people suggest that you don't read your own tarot cards because your bias. You may not want to see the truth, or you may not want to see what it is that it's saying to you. Okay. You may be blinded by your own bias. Now, that depends on your craft. That depends on you as a person. I personally read my own tarot cards because I don't like when other people read my tarot cards. They always get the information wrong. The last tarot reader that I went to told me that burning frankincense and myrrh is going to conjure the devil. I paid $35 for this woman to sit there and tell me, I think it was around my birthday. Yeah, it was around my birthday. And I had asked her a very specific question about how the year would play out for me. And she started pulling the cards and reading them. And she's like, "Are you a witch?" And I was like, "I do practice." And she's like, "Do you burn frankincense and myrrh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, that's bad. That's going to summon the devil." And I was like, "Are you some Christian? Like, what is this? Like, what? Oh my God." Like, what? So I left. I mean, $35 for a tarot reading, that's nothing. I mean, there are witches out there who will charge hundreds of dollars for a tarot reading. And then there are witches out there who will charge reasonable amounts for tarot readings. I'm pretty sure Lunar Wisdom charges more than $35, but I could be wrong. Don't come for me. So now that we're done with the Facebook part of the rant, I want to rant about two other things. The first one that I want to rant about is how your craft is not outdated. Solitary Luna has been in my chat a few times, and the last time she was in here, we were kind of talking about that, about how she had mentioned that she's had encounters with New Age people or whatever the case may be, where they tell her that her craft, the way she practices, is outdated. And if you ever encounter those types of people, ignore them. Okay, because they don't know what they're talking about. If they offer you, I believe she had mentioned that they had offered her a class to update her craft, to learn how to do the new modern way of doing the craft. Ignore those people. Walk away from those people because they're scam artists. This new age wicca bicca hippy dippy crystal loving sage waving around, and I have a video coming on why sage is a lie, and it actually lands this week. So enjoy. But you know, these crystal loving hippy dippies with their waving of sage and being like, "Oh, what you practice is so outdated." Like those people. Okay, your craft is not outdated. Your craft is your craft. It doesn't matter if it was handed down to you from your grandmother. It doesn't matter if you learned your craft yourself. It doesn't matter if you started from Wicca, like an actual Wicca, not this new age hippy dippy bullshit, but like Buckland's or Scott Cunningham or not Silver. Is it Silver Ravenwolf? Not her. She's a scam artist. But the two authors that I suggested, there's the Buckland's Wicca book. Like, just buy the Buckland's Wicca book if you're going to learn witchcraft. Start there, spend 2 or 3 years, then develop your own craft. And I like the older versions of magic. And when I say older versions, I put that in quotes. So I put magic in quotes because I'm an idiot. So it's older versions, right? There's nothing wrong with practicing a craft that your grandmother taught you, or your great-grandmother taught you, or your great-great-grandmother taught you, or your great-great-great-great-grandmother taught you. I don't know how these people are still alive, but, you know. Right? Like, if your craft, what I'm saying is if your craft is passed down through the family, right, and you go into some store, and you're like, "Oh, I need this herb," and the lady's like, "Oh, what do you need the herb for?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm doing the spell to do this," and she instantly stops you and is like, "Oh, that's outdated. That's not how this herb is used anymore. That's not how this herb is used. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I got a class. Here, if you pay me $75, I can teach you real witchcraft." What is real witchcraft? What is it? What's real? What is real witchcraft? What is modern witchcraft? What is new witchcraft? Is it witchcraft 2.0? Is it witchcraft 3.0? Is it witchcraft 1.1? Like, witchcraft is witchcraft. The same spell from the 1730s to get rid of a thief off your property would still work today. We might make some adjustments to fit our own needs, but that doesn't invalidate that spell. It doesn't make it less than. Right? Let's say a spell calls for jars of piss to be hanging from a tree to get rid of a thief. You might change that because jars of piss is a little creepy to be hanging in trees in 2021. Okay? We might put crystals or bird chimes or something else. But we put the same intentions in. We put the same energy in to ward off thieves off of our property. So instead of a jar of piss, which you could still do, you might put up wind chimes. Or you might bury the jars of piss along your property line. Or you might use salt. Or you might use hot foot powder. Or you might come up with some kind of spell that makes your house invisible. The point is that the craft is never outdated. Because we all have our own definition of what the craft is to us. Okay? It's a very spiritual journey. Witchcraft is nothing like Christianity. In Christianity, everybody believes in the same God. Everybody believes in the same 10 commandments. Everybody goes, well, not everybody, but most people go to church, right? Everybody believes in Jesus. Everybody this, everybody that. With Christianity and modern day religion, the people that believe in that religion, they all practice the same way. Okay. All Muslims pray facing Mecca, I believe. I could be wrong. Don't come for me. I've only learned that from TV shows. Could be horribly wrong. Most Christians go to church, but all Christians in some way pray to the same God. Okay. They all understand that there is a devil. They all understand that the devil is bad, right? There may be some Christians who are a little more progressive than other Christians. But at the same time, they all worship the same thing. In witchcraft, we all worship differently. Some of you may have elaborate altars to the Morrigan or Hecate or whatever else it is that you people work with, right? Some people may not have an altar. Some people may cast spells using only peppermint. Some people may never touch peppermint, right? Like, you see what I'm saying here, right? Like, the way we practice witchcraft is vastly different than modern religion. And this new age, wicca-bicca, hippy-dippy, crystal-loving, sage-waving around group of people, it seems to me, from the stories I've heard, is that this new age movement is trying to get everybody under the same umbrella. And that's why in rare cases, or at least in Solitary's instance, you may find people who tell you that the way you practice your craft is outdated and inappropriate, and that you should pay for a class to learn how to practice real witchcraft in the modern era. Fuck that shit, and fuck those people. You are not less than. Your craft is not less than. You are not a bad person because you practice an older form or a more folksy form or a more ceremonial form or a more whatever form of magic, as opposed to what is considered modern. And what is considered modern? What is modern witchcraft? In my opinion, modern witchcraft is literally Wicca 2.0 without banishing spells, without spells, really. I mean, I have encountered a few New Age people in my city. There used to be a New Age store back long ago on my channel. I was talking about this store. It's since closed down, which is sad, but there was a lady at one point who was working there, and she was a New Age, and I had asked her if she practiced any, like, what she practiced for her New Age. Like, I was just curious. And she said that she practices Wicca, but she doesn't cast spells. She doesn't do rituals. She thinks that's the devil's thing. She still prays to God, and she likes to have her crystals, and she likes to have her sage, and she likes to, like, this is where I came up with the crystal hippy dippy sage waving thing, right? And she likes to, you know, do her New Age thing, whatever it is. I don't remember what it was, but that's what I remember of her. And it's fine if you want to do that. I mean, you do whatever you want to do, but at the same time, I wonder, like, can you actually pray to God and work with crystals? Isn't that like idolatry or something? I mean, yes, there are Christian witches out there, so clearly it's a thing. But my understanding of a Christian witch is they work with God in their magic. And if you take that, there's been a conversation kind of on YouTube about Christian witches, but if you take that and you go all the way back to the Knights Templar, right? They believed in God and they practiced ceremonial magic, from my understanding. Could be horribly wrong. The point is that if you look at any ceremonial magic texts that are out there, like the Key of Solomon or any grimoire, really, there's going to be a lot of references to God, lots of prayers to God, lots of prayers to God in order to begin the process of conjuring the entity that you want to conjure. And in ceremonial magic, at least in a lot of these texts that I have read, these occult texts, it seems to me that the key understanding is that you have to have a good relationship with God. And I'm talking like the Christian God, right? So Christian witchcraft shouldn't really be a conversation, because if you look at history, older forms of magic, right, grimoires and whatnot, with their spells for invisibility and their protection magics and their demon conjuring and their spirit conjuring and their angel conjuring and so on and so forth, and their circles where you call upon the four main archangels like Michael and Gabriel and two others, and you're using God's name and so on and so forth. Yet there's somehow a conversation around Christian witches, and I'm like, we don't need to have that conversation, because you people just need to look back into the past, look into history, and you'll see that Christianity and witchcraft, Catholicism and witchcraft, Catholicism and hoodoo, like, religion has played a part in witchcraft. So there is no real right or wrong way. There's just people's opinions. And I have my opinions and you have your opinions. And I personally hate these New Age, hippy-dippy, cursing the sun and the moon, bullshit TikTok wannabe witches. Not all of them are stupid. And usually when I make fun of these people, I don't mean to make fun of the vast majority of them. It's just very specific groups of people who think that they know what they're doing, but at the end of the day, they're just playing around and they're just posting things and so on and so forth. And it's that air of authenticity, right? Like, it all comes down to that. We all have our own air of authenticity, right? So like, what you may think is fake on my channel, I might think is fake on your channel, right? But I don't come for you. I don't really care what you do. I don't even care if you are a New Age hippy dippy Wicca Bicca. I just like to call you a New Age hippy dippy Wicca Bicca, right? I don't like the oversimplification of things today. I don't like these boiled down concepts that I've talked about before. And I really don't like this over monetization. For example, a bundle of sage out here in Canada in a small town called Banff, where they sell it in a store, can cost you $16. And the sage sticks that I have on my altar, I got them from New Age Imports. And you get 5 for $5. And they can come mixed with herbs, or they can come as pure sage. And so I have to question, why is the craft so monetized? Why is it so accessible? Why is it so easy? And why does nobody shut up? One of the rules in witchcraft, and I say rule, and I put that in quotes, and I put it more in quotes, and I put it so far in quotes that you'd have to scroll for days to find the word rule. But one of the things in witchcraft is to be silent, to shut the fuck up. Sit there. Listen. Everybody gets the casting and the sharing and the this and the that, but nobody really pays attention. Nobody really listens. And you have to listen. You have to listen to your entities. You have to listen to your intuition. You have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to the vibrations and the energy. You just have to zip it. It's really that easy. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, because we've only got a few minutes left before I run away, is dark entities, dark magic, black magic, demons, left-hand path. What kind of images does that conjure up for you? What's a dark entity? Is it Hecate? Is it the Morrigan? If nobody gave you a book, if you had no access to the internet, but you had a way of conjuring Hecate, would you think she's dark? Would you think she's malevolent? Would you think she's evil? Would you think she's scary? With social media, we've been able to talk about these entities. We've been able to talk about Hecate, Morrigan, demons, angels, saints, dead people, this, that, and the other thing. Sacrificial babies. I don't think anybody talks about sacrificial. I don't think anybody's sacrificing babies. Okay, don't do that. But when we talk about demons, for instance, we think dark, scary creatures. Do you know what all of this is at the end of the day? It's energy. Somebody somewhere said Hecate was a dark entity, and now the whole internet thinks that Hecate is a dark entity. Is she a dark entity? That's up to you and your relationship with Hecate. Is the Morrigan a dark entity? That's up to you and your relationship with the Morrigan. Me personally, I don't find her to be a dark entity. I find her to be an entity that if you piss off, she's going to be mad and she's going to punish you in some way. But I don't find her dark. I think people who find these entities dark are people who have pissed them off. At the end of the day, everything we work with is just energy. It's neither good, it's neither bad. Some people may say, well, the reason they're dark entities is because of the mythology. That's all it is mythology. The Morrigan has told me numerous times that a lot of the mythology about her is wrong. Boone and various other demons have told me and laughed whenever I'd be like, oh, according to this text, did you know that this priest or this angel is supposed to fight you or banish you or something? And they laugh. Because it's wrong. It's misinformation. You have to realize that a lot of the information out there is hearsay. Somebody said it, somebody believed it, and repeated it. and it carried on. It's the wheels on the bus. They go round and round, okay? And sometimes we hit a speed bump and the wheel gets a little dented. And so now the information is a little dented. And that gets passed down, and then it ends up in books, and then people read those books and they develop relationships with these entities, and they write books about their relationships with the entities, and all of this information back and forth all over the place, spread around the globe, spread around the world, spread around the witchy community, right? And that's how we end up coming up with these ideas that these entities are dark, malevolent. I remember once somebody in a Facebook group told me that if I ever worked with a Morrigan, that I would be going to hell because she's a dark entity, and that I should only work with light energy. There is no light and dark. There is no black and white. There is no gray and red. It's energy. Go stick a fork in an electrical socket. Don't actually do it. But you're going to get electrocuted. Is that dark energy? Is that dark electricity? Is that black magic? No, that's you being stupid. Okay? That electricity is not good or evil. You stuck something metal into the socket while touching it, so the electricity is going to go through the metal into your hand and electrocute you. That's not good or bad. That's just how electricity works. Energy is not good or bad. Magic is not good or bad. There is no such thing as a left-hand path, black magic, gray magic, or any other kind of color of magic. It's just energy. If you put intentions to curse somebody, you have changed the energy and you have sent it out. Is that considered dark energy? No, because if that energy was coming towards me, I could capture that energy and use it for something else. Thus, I change or pervert the energy into what I want it for. It's not easy to capture that kind of energy, though. It really isn't. You have to be on your game when you do it, because usually when a witch is throwing magic at you, they're trying to disrupt your life in some way. And if you can catch that, if you can focus on that, well, not focus on it, but like catch it, then you can change it. It's the same reason why we have dream catchers. They're supposed to catch nightmares, or why we have crystals sometimes around our house to catch negative energy, right? Or why we put up protections to block energy. But at the end of the day, energy is just energy. It's what we do with it. It's how we manipulate it. It's how we change it. There is no concept really of good or bad, or of light and dark, or of evil and whatever else. And it's interesting to see that a lot of witches apply color and apply these good or bad labels to things. Like if you go into a Facebook group and you start talking about Hecate, or at least some of the ones that I'm involved in, people will jump all over you telling you that you're working with the devil, that you're working with evil entities, that you shouldn't be doing that, so on and so forth. And those are hilarious. Those are hilarious to witness, because those people really have no idea at all about witchcraft. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. It's what we choose to do with it. If I take the electricity and I hook it up to an electric chair, my intentions is to kill the person that sits in that electric chair. But the electricity is just energy. It doesn't know that it's going to kill the person that sits there. It just flows. Okay? It's the humans that make it bad. Okay? Quotes. Bad. But the electricity in your house is not bad. It turns your lights on. It allows you to watch me here on YouTube. If your kid sticks a fork in a socket, the energy's not bad. the electricity is not bad. It's just going where it's supposed to go because they stuck a fork in the socket. Okay, so when you're casting magic and you're putting intentions out there, it's not that the energy is suddenly bad or malevolent. It's just doing what you tell it to do. It's a human thing, really, at the end of the day. Okay, I have ranted and I have raved, and we have talked about Facebook groups, and we've talked about energy, and we talked about how your craft is not invalidated, and we talked about how your magics are your magics. Everybody's going to have their own opinions and their own definitions on whether the craft is good or bad, or an entity is good or bad, or whether somebody who's practicing is outdated. There's no such thing as being outdated. I can tell you that right now. There is no such thing as being outdated in the craft. Okay? And there's no such thing as dark, black, evil magic. It's all energy. It's like electricity. Electricity is neither good nor bad. Okay? So until next time, tubies. Love you.